Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
It's Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Two more Indiana Republicans say they will not run for another term in Congress this year. Congressman Larry Bucshon and Greg Pence both announced their retirements in the span of 24 hours. I talked with Bucshon about his decision to retire and what the future holds for him. Congressman Bucshon, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Big announcement this week, stepping away. Why now?
Well, I mean, I think 7 terms is a good run. 14 years. I really believe that members of Congress should come and serve and then, go back to the private sector. I'm planning on not retiring totally. I'm going to do something else. What that is, I don't know. I don't have any plans in the works. I just really feel strongly that I've done my time, and it's time for me and my family to open a new chapter.
When you say do something else, we should point out that you're a doctor, a heart doctor. Are you medical field or still in politics?
No, I won't be able to go back to the practice of medicine. I've been out for 14 years. I was a cardiovascular surgeon. Things have changed quite a bit. I'd have to go back into training for a period of time. Plus, I'm going to be 62 years old in May. And really, as far as cardiovascular surgery goes, most people back away from that in their early 60s anyway, had they not, even if they were still in practice. So I don't know. I'm going to try to do something that influences national healthcare policy. What that will be, I don't know yet. I hope to find a position. You never know. Something in healthcare, something government-centric. I'm going to be open to possibilities. And, right now, over the next year, though, I'm going to work hard in Congress because we got a lot of important issues, before the American people, and I'm going to finish strong here.
Okay, so I want to get to that in a moment. If you could take us back to through the past 14 years, some memories. What stood out to you in regards to your time in Congress?
Yeah, what stands out the most, honestly, is the constituent work we've done in the district where we've helped people with their interaction with the federal government. That's a very, very important part of government that people don't understand necessarily. We've made a difference for individual constituents in their interaction with the government, whether that's Medicare, the VA, or other agencies. And also, it's been a pleasure to interview service academy candidates, and have young men and women go to our service academies. Personal things like that, the interaction with the people in each of my counties, hearing from people directly, and then trying to make a difference on that scale. In DC itself, I've been really engaged in healthcare policy. I've been trying to increase access to quality healthcare for everyone, particularly rural America that I represent, and get the cost down. Look, it's a big challenge because the system, isn't very transparent. I've been working on that. So I'm proud of those things. I think as far as legacies goes, try to increase quality, affordable healthcare to everyone is something I think I've worked on a lot and I'm proud of.
From a personal life perspective, it's a grind, right?
It really is. I mean, half the time you're away from your family, you travel quite a bit back and forth. I do from Evansville, Indiana to Washington, D.C. Yes, so it is. It's a grind on not only you, but your family. And in my statement, which I'd encourage your viewers to read on social media, I talk about that, how I want to thank my wife, Catherine, my kids, I have 4, and my in-laws for helping us. They live next door to us in Evansville. But yeah, it's a personal grind, but that's part of it, right? And that is something that goes along with the job, but it's still an honor and a privilege to do it.
Any regrets?
I have none. I think, I really don't regret my decision to run for Congress or serve in Congress. It's been an honor and a privilege to do it. Again, my interaction with people in Indiana, whether that's on the personal level or touring businesses and seeing how things are done, what people are doing every day around the state and in my district has been a pleasure. So I have no regrets.
In regards to our earlier conversation, you have 10 months left. What's in the forefront?
Yeah. Well, we're going to work on healthcare transparency. We have legislation that passed the House, and we all want to try to get the cost of healthcare down, and the cost of pharmaceuticals down. We also have legislation that passed the House to help do that. We're working with the Senate. So I'm hopeful, more transparency in the healthcare system, get the cost down for our citizens. That's going to be a big push of mine this year. I also need to make sure we adequately pay our medical providers. Rural America, underserved America. Right now, it's difficult to get providers to practice there and to take Medicare because of the low reimbursement rates. We want to make sure those are adequate so we can get doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners back into rural America and in underserved urban America because those citizens deserve good health care close to home. So I'm going to be working on all those things.
Congressman, one more question before I let you go, and thank you for taking some time.
Sure.
You plan on maybe backing someone as your replacement?
I don't. I'm not going to publicly back anyone. I think it's up to the voters. There'll be some good candidates get in the race. I'm going to support the Republican nominee once the primary is over because I believe in the principles of our party. Limited government, low regulation, low taxes. But in the meantime, no, I'm not going to openly support any candidate. I think there'll be a number of qualified candidates.
Okay. Well, Congressman Bucshon, you've always been good to us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to maybe having some more further conversations with you over the next 10 months. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And coming up, a special guest gets a special welcome at the State of the State. Israel's Consul General to the Midwest joins us. Welcome back. Governor Eric Holcomb's State of the State speech included a tribute to Israel's ongoing war with Hamas. Israel's Consul General to the Midwest attended the speech as a special guest. Our Dakari Turner sat down with Cohen to discuss the speech and Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip.
It's always good to be here in Indiana. We have very close relation and partnership between Israel and the Hoosier State. The governor is a great friend of Israel. We have a lot of allies and friends in the capital. And we discussed some of the issues that have to do with the situation right now in Israel and how we can expand our partnership between the Hoosier State and Israel.
What do those partnerships look like?
We want to grow the economic partnership between Israel and Indiana because we believe that Israel has a lot of potential to bring to Indiana, a lot of technology, a lot of innovation. And Indiana, being on the crossroad of America, also has a lot of potential for this partnership on pharmaceuticals, on solar energy, on agriculture, on many issues. And this is exactly what we try to build between our two regions.
You got a special introduction. He stopped his speech to recognize you and the situation in Israel. What did that mean to be welcomed in that way?
That was very heartwarming, and I'm very grateful to the governor for his friendship. For many years with the State of Israel, with me personally, that was very meaningful to me because, it's not only about me, it's about my country. And Israel has been going through very difficult situation in the past months because of the terror attack that we've experienced and the war. And receiving this welcome from the governor here in Indianapolis means a lot to us.
In the Hoosier State, there are a lot of people in different areas that will often fly the flag of Israel. When you talk about that reception, not just from the governor and lawmakers, but from everyday people, and I'm sure throughout the Midwest, where you have territory at, what does that kind of reception mean from everyday people?
This is very true because the friendship and I would say the alliance between Israel and the United States, and specifically between Israel and Indiana, is not based only on the relations between the governments, between the administrations. It's a friendship between the people. And I think that this is a friendship and a partnership that is based on our shared values. We both believe in freedom and democracy. And I think that when people here in Indiana look at Israel, that's exactly what they see. And this is where the support to Israel comes from.
Obviously, it's been very trying for your country and the people there. What has everyday life looked like since October 7th?
Thank you. October 7th for us was a monumental day in terms of, the terror attack that we experienced, the biggest terrorist attack in the history of Israel. It was also the biggest killing of Jews since the Holocaust. We're talking about 1,200 people who got killed on a single day. We're a very small country. If you compare the numbers to the American equivalents, it's like 40,000 Americans getting killed on a single day in a terrorist attack. This is something big. We have never experienced such a thing, and we of course need to respond. So since October 7th, Israel has been engaged in a war against the terrorist group of Hamas. with the goal to eradicate their terrorist capabilities and to make sure that they're unable to attack Israel again, to attack our communities, to kill our civilians as they did on October 7th.
Yesterday, as you know, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Prime Minister Netanyahu met, and essentially the Secretary of State, he stopped short of saying it, but he advocated for a two-state solution, something the Prime Minister has been opposed to. What do you think is, what is your reaction to that, and is that a viable solution?
We want to see Palestinian sovereignty. We want to see the Palestinians living with coexistence, with Israel. But in order for that to happen, they first need to recognize Israel, to accept the existence of the Jewish state. And what we saw on October 7th is the opposite. As President Biden himself said, what Hamas is trying to do is to annihilate the state of Israel and to kill as many Jews as they can. And while Hamas continues to control the Gaza Strip, and while Hamas continues to have strongholds in the West Bank, this is very dangerous. So we need to make sure that the radical elements are disappearing, are gone from the Palestinian society, and if we want to build a future of peace and coexistence with our neighbors, with our Palestinian neighbors.
Is there a way that the Israeli army can avoid civilian casualties in the southern part of Gaza?
Yes, there's no guarantee for that ever. War is a horrible thing, and the war that that is happening right now in the Gaza Strip is a very complicated one because it happens in urban spaces, because Hamas is hiding behind civilians. They're hiding behind civilians in schools, they're hiding behind civilians in hospitals, they're hiding behind civilians in mosques, in worship places, and they're hiding behind civilians in residential buildings. So we try to do whatever we can to minimize the harm for civilians. This is why Israel called for civilians to leave the war zones. This is why Israel has created an interactive map to get more information, so that the people in Gaza get more information about where are the safe places and where are the places that are more dangerous for them.
Lastly, I'll just ask you, what is Israel's plan for Gaza and for the Palestinian territories as a whole after the war?
This is probably the most important question now, because what we want to make sure that happens after the war, and this is what President Biden said too, is that Gaza will not be controlled anymore by Hamas, because a terrorist organization cannot rule a territory. Hamas cannot rule the Gaza Strip. We need to make sure that there is another governing body in the Gaza Strip that is based on, Palestinian leadership, that is aiming for more freedom, for more democracy, and more coexistence with Israel. We will probably have a transition period in which some of our Arab partners from the region, the moderate Arab countries, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, together with the Americans, the Europeans, and other international bodies, probably have to mentor the new Palestinian leadership in the Gaza Strip towards more freedom, democracy, and coexistence with Israel.
Okay.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team talks congressional retirements and looks ahead to the Iowa caucuses. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics, as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Laura Beck and Republican Whitley Yates. Let's begin with that interview with Congressman Larry Bucshon, ladies, at the top of the show. Bucshon and Congressman, as you know, Greg Pence, this week both announced they will not seek another term in Congress. Congresswoman, meanwhile, Victoria Spartz, has already said she's out. Whitley, should Republicans be worried about these departures?
Absolutely not. Both Congressman Bucshon and Congressman Pence have left a long legacy of leadership here in Indiana, and I think that they have decided that it's time for them to retire. We thank them for their service, and the Indiana Republican Party and base has a long bench of talent that can fulfill these roles and continue to carry that leadership on into 2024 and beyond.
Laura, they're all safe Republican seats, as is the seat Jim Banks is vacating to run for Senate. So what will Democrats have to do to flip these seats? And are there any of them that are more likely than others?
Well, I think we have to do what we always do. And I think we have to be really strategic and thoughtful about getting folks in there who are qualified to do the job and can represent Hoosiers. I mean, I think one of the most important things is we are going into an election cycle where democracy is on the ballot. Donald Trump is going to be on the ballot. This could be seen also, too, as a nationwide referendum on abortion. So I don't want us to give these away immediately and say they're lost causes, because they're not. The districts are difficult because they were drawn by Republicans, but at the same time, change can be very powerful, and I think it's a good opportunity for candidates to step up and run, especially in this pivotal election year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Governor Eric Holcomb, as you know, delivering his final State of the State address on Tuesday night. He mainly recapped his recent economic development moves. He did call for action on issues such as literacy and child care. Laura, legislative Democrats say they were disappointed by a lack of mention of health care issues in the speech. You agree?
Well, I think healthcare is incredibly important for us to have this conversation about. I mean, healthcare is probably one of the biggest expenses people face. And especially as Dr. Bouchon talked about, transparency with healthcare costs are really incredibly important. And there is a divide between healthcare. What I think is interesting is that there's such a focus right now at the State House on education, and there's such a focus on literacy. And are we're going to hold kids back in the third grade? I mean, Republicans have been in charge of education for probably 20 years, and they still aren't moving the needle forward. So I think we need to take a look at going back to the days of Governor O'Bannon. Let's go to full day kindergarten. Let's have better child care access. Let's do early. Anyone who has kids understands and knows early childhood education works, and that makes the biggest difference if you want to make a dent in literacy and reading.
Whitley, I'll let you respond to that. Also, does Holcomb's focus on Chamber of Commerce type issues put him at odds with socially conservative legislature?
No, I don't agree at all with what Laura's saying. And we've had 4 State of the States from Governor Holcomb, and we have seen the types of bills that his administration has pushed. And he has supported education 10 times over any other governor. He has funded early childhood education and made investments not only into students, but into teachers as well as school choice. And so I think it's a misnomer to pretend as though he has not been a champion and an advocate for education, but to look at the current literacy rates of the third graders and to really understand how COVID has truly impacted our students when they weren't in school. Me having a third grader myself right now, I understand the challenges that we faced. And it's really about coming together as a state, looking at all the different dimensions in which we can do better and where we're excelling and making cognitive decisions that propel all Hoosiers forward.
All right, let's turn now to national politics, ladies. The Iowa caucuses are tomorrow night. Whitley, Trump has a huge lead in the polls in Iowa. How likely is it, in your opinion, that he underperforms, and how much could he lose before he has to worry?
I don't think that Trump will underperform. I think the polls will be pretty close to the pulse of the people at this point in time, just like the polls for Joe Biden, where he is underperforming. I think that it's going to be the exact pulse of the nation. I have absolutely no thoughts, feelings that he will not prevail in Iowa. I think the bigger question will be, how will some of the other contenders do? We only have Joe Biden running in the Democratic Party, or that's who they're only allowing on the ballot in Iowa. But when it comes to the Republican side, I really want to see how Nikki Haley is going to do, considering who has dropped out of the race, former Governor Chris Christie.
Laura, what will you be watching for tomorrow night?
I think a couple things. One is turnout. I mean, we always talk about turnout, but I think the weather's going to be like 3 below zero or something like that. But I'm from northern Minnesota, and people from Iowa we're hardy folk. So that probably won't depress turnout. But turnout, I definitely will be watching. I also think of the margin on Trump. I mean, it's not a question that he's going to win. I think it's going to be by how much. And then following from there, who gets out of the race? Will Haley get out? Will DeSantis get out? Haley probably will. I would assume Haley's going to stay in, but I don't know how it's going to be sustainable for DeSantis to continue at the state and time if he doesn't come in second. So that's probably what we're going to be watching the closest. And then the question then becomes, they turn around and head to the next state and see how that moves forward. So those will be the things we'll be looking for. Yeah.
Yep. All right, ladies, good to see you. We'll all be watching All Eyes on Iowa tomorrow night. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. We'll be right back. Well, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at WishTV.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.